and welcome back to another season of Biters, the podcast about The Walking Dead and all things zombie and undead. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and with me is my partner in crime,
Kirk Manley.
We have been away for far too many weeks.
Too long.
We failed on our promise to everybody, saying that we were going to come back like once a month over the summer and do something, because we did it one episode, and then we got wrapped up doing the final issue of our Z-Girl and the Four Tigers comic book.
Yeah, it really came down to the wire and just sucked every bit of free time I had.
So anytime we even talked about doing a podcast about doing something, we just didn't have time for it, and my day job got in the way, and Kirk's day job got in the way. So basically, we let everybody down. But we are here. We are here to make amends.
We let you all down. But
it was all for good, because actually Kirk and I just came back from 4 days at the Javits Center in New York City at the New York Comic Con, where the early estimates are about 151,000 people had shown up.
Wow. Last year was 130, I think, and they predicted 160. So that's awesome. 150.
Yeah, it was packed. We saw a lot of cosplayers.
Crazy packed.
And we want to thank everybody who came by the booth, who picked up Walking Dead prints, and who we hopefully introduced to the Biters podcast.
I want to do a big shout out to at Coffee Missy. Missy came by, and she had DM'd me from Twitter and said she was going to be there Saturday or Sunday, and she wanted copies of the prints, so put some aside for her. And she's been a big supporter since I've been posting up the Walking Dead tribute art. So just big props to her for showing up and hanging out with us and picking up some of the prints. No big mystery that the A-Team poster sold out.
Oh, that's right. We went with six prints. The A-Team sold out first, and then we sold out of two more. We're just down to we sold out of all but the Daryl and the Abraham.
Yeah, which I'm kind of surprised about, because Daryl's usually a pretty popular.
Well, it was funny how we had some women show up and they were like, "Oh, Daryl," and then they saw that
Beth was in it.
Beth was in it, and they're like, "Oh, we hate her. I hope she dies." And then one woman, talk about spewing invectives. Boy, she just went dropping F-bombs and everything. She was very passionate that Beth and Daryl should not ever hook up. And boy, that was the creepiest thing. Was, she went off on the piggyback ride. And
well, we'll get to more, but I guess the Daryl Carroll people are going to be real happy after this week's episode. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Beth who?
Yeah, exactly. So again, big shout out. Thank you to everybody who stopped by our booth.
People who picked up Z-Girl, and if you haven't checked out Z-Girl, check out Z-Girl and the Four Tigers at zgirl.org. We just finished up the first story arc of 5 issues, and we had a lot of fun in New York pitching that to people and introducing them to it. And
I want to give a shout out to Abby Q, who I think like a week ago he sent a Facebook post. It was basically like, when are you guys coming back? And are you guys still doing headshots? And
good, bad,
good, bad, and the ugly. And of course, we can't pass up Kathy Coate Carey, who she's Kathy. It's good to know we're back in your ear holes again.
That just doesn't sound.
It doesn't sound right. But
it sounded good in your head, probably. But as it came out,
those are her words. Those are her words. But anyway,
big thanks to everybody that has been patient with us to get back on the mic and have posted over at the Facebook page. We really appreciate that, and we will do our best to do good shows for you here on the start of season 5. And
just one programming note. I feel like I'm at the end of a news show or something. On one programming note, since we always talk about how we're a part of Southgate Media Group, well, Southgate Media Group has a big page now on iTunes, so they're easier to find. I actually just started another podcast because clearly I have too much time on my hands, so I don't know what to do with. So Scott Malkus,
You're
who's my
nuts, man. You are nuts. You
I
got
am. I'm
three going now. You
insane.
got the Flash. You got this. You got.
Yeah, so we just started. My friend Scott and I, who do we do Comrades, which is the
Oh, you got
Americans.
five then.
I just man, I've lost count. And then we do American Horror Story that just started, and then we're doing Fast Talkers. Fast Talkers is the new Flash one, and my friend Scott and I are super Flash geeks, so we're really excited about doing that. So check those out as well.
Holy
All right.
wow. You're either a masochist or you really love to hear yourself talk.
You know what? As I get older, I think it might be the second one, actually. You know what it is? You know what it is? It's because my day job is at home. I work from home. I have nobody to talk to but myself. So I want to share this, this mellifluous tone with the rest of the
Stop
world.
using words I don't understand, will you?
Kirk just scrambled for a dictionary. Doggone it. What's that with an M?
I have to Google these things. It's just going to screw up the timing on everything.
All right. So we've got episode 1, of season 5, No Sanctuary. Written by showrunner Scott Gimple and directed by the special effects guru Greg Nicotero.
Right. Who's also
and
producer now too, right? I think.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So I had actually seen the first 4 minutes of the show because being a Comic-Con, they had released the 4 minutes, and I sent it to Kirk, and of course Kirk was like, "I don't want to see it. I watched.
Well, I watched the regular standard trailer, and as it was, there was, I don't know, there was a few spoilers in there, So
yeah, they always goof up the.
But they did a really good job with it because they totally misdirected. There was a lot of misinformation and misdirection in the trailer where they chose to put words over pictures and which pictures they showed and in what order and stuff. And that was good, because they were really leading you one way, and clearly the show went a different way. So that was good.
So if you're new to if you're new to the podcast, how Kirk and I do it was basically we go the good, the bad, and the ugly. What we thought was good, what was bad, and what we thought was ugly. And ugly can either be ugly awesome or ugly awful, and it's kind of up to our interpretation. So we'll start off with the good.
The good. All right, who's going first? You or me?
Go ahead. You go first.
Well, this is simple. My good is everything. No, I mean, this has to be probably the best premiere of the series, in my opinion. Definitely one of my favorite episodes of all time. I mean, obviously, the first premiere, season 1, is always going to be a favorite. The other, I don't know if it was a mid-season premiere or a season premiere where they take the prison and you have that first cold open or silent opening where they take the house and then they have to take the prison. That's always been one of my favorite episodes too. But this is by far my favorite as of right now. There was just so many good things. I mean, Carol just pulling a Clint Eastwood. She stole the show. I mean, it was just. She was badass and totally believable. I love that they went back to the guts, with the fact that she was using the guts to cover herself with. We haven't seen that since season 1. I mean, I guess there was the time when Michonne showed up at the prison, but that was as a result. She was covered in it as a result of fighting her way to the prison, I think. This was really strategic, and I think that was a great thing to see them come back and revisit. I loved, too, that, she's just not taking any prisoners. When she gets cornered by Scary Mary, she doesn't hesitate. She doesn't put the gun down. She knows the situation. She puts the gun down. She's dead. So she whips around and just starts firing. It was awesome. By far, the zombie nuke blast when she blew up that gas tank, best zombie kill ever in the history of all zombie movies or shows. I mean, it was like right out of the comics. I mean, those zombie bodies flying, and I mean, it was just I don't think I've ever seen anything in any zombie movie that could even match that. I mean, I'm going to keep rambling here, but why don't you jump in with some of what you thought of the good?
No, I absolutely agree, and it was one of those shows where right off the. Like I said, I'd seen the 4 minutes beforehand, and I remember.
Was the 4 minutes the first opening? Was it the slaughterhouse?
Yeah.
Oh my.
So when I saw that open, I was like, "Holy cow!" Like this is, and first of all, the pacing of this thing, it just moved. There
Yeah.
wasn't a slow
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
It just kept going. It just went through the whole thing. A lot of the nitpicky stuff, like little things. I loved the opening scene, how they were taken. Here you are. And it's, again, you talk about something that you don't see anywhere. You see people locked up, they're prisoners somewhere, they're hostages, and no one really, they kind of almost accept their fate, I guess. But you had these people who were taking their belt buckles and turning them into little claws, right? Or taking I've never seen a zipper used as a saw before. That was genius.
It was genius.
Everybody's making these makeshift, and I just love how they were like one step ahead of the Terminus gang. And just as they're the door's about ready to open, they're ready to just, jump in, and the hatch overhead opens up and they drop a smoke grenade in there, which, again, it's like, you have people who are thinking, like the Terminus gang is thinking, hey, we know that we've got a bunch of, caged animals in here, and if we open that up, they're going to bum rush us. So, and it was just, finally you saw people in the zombie apocalypse, it's been a critique of mine for a couple seasons, where these people don't act like they're seasoned veterans of this time.
Right.
They finally stepped up and they acted like seasoned veterans. Carol, what she did, that was brilliant. And
there's been people I've read online with people complaining about, that picking it as a fault that she was able to, blow that thing up with one firework, but she blows a hole in the tank. Right. And the tank is leaking the gas. You can see it coming out. I mean, so she doesn't have to get very close to that thing to ignite it. You know what I mean? She's just got to get a spark in that gas. So,
and this is. And
I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, which is, there's that suspension of disbelief. If you're going to believe that the dead can get up and walk around again, I'm going to let it go that I can set a firecracker. Those are probably the same people who are like, no, that thing was clearly leaking, hydrogen at.
You mean like Star Wars geeks arguing over, some sort of Star Wars tech?
that pressure, I'm telling you that, and that's a nitpick, is that the pressure coming out of there was far too great. It was coming out at least 250 psi. That tank only holds 125 tops.
Yeah.
Come on, let it go. No, that was great. Wait
a minute, before you move on, I wanted to comment, because you brought up the way they were going like all MacGyver in the box. I thought that, I agree with you on that. But the other thing too is, and you mentioned the Rosita's Wolverine claws she makes out of her earrings, and then also I thought, Michonne's building of the double Sith style sword. That was awesome. And I think that those were. It was funny because, again, Scott Gimple, being a comic book geeky kind of guy, he's bringing. I mean, that was a definite tip of the hat to Wolverine's claws. And to a Sith sword, double lightsaber.
And to any comic geek out there who didn't see Rosita do that and go, "Oh my God, that's X-23."
Yeah, exactly.
Those of you who don't read comic books, that just went over your head. But
yeah,
that's okay, because
awesome.
The 4 other people who are comic book geeks, they all got that. I liked that the opening. So we had that opening, and which was just kind of weird, and you're like, what is going on here? And then then we switch over to Carol and Tyrese, and they stumble. It was funny because when the guy's name, the actor was Chris Coy, but he was playing the character Martin. When he's laying out the fireworks, I was like, what are they getting ready for, a jamboree out in the woods or something? Like, what's this? Yeah, but then he says, really we're doing we're creating a noise to lure them away.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense.
And who saw the herd? Like, when you saw the herd,
well, you knew they had obviously done this before. That anytime this is all part of their they had become this systematized organization, dehumanized. They had a process down, and when they do their roundups, obviously the gunfire attracts zombies. So, and there was never any zombies around them. Remember when they showed up at the Terminus last season? I remember being critical about it, saying, what the heck? Why is there no zombies around? They got these open gates and everything, and how could they not have any zombies around? And it was like, well, obviously that's because they have this whole process, and it eliminates them. Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's funny that you say it, because it'll be interesting when you get this in box set, and people who are going to binge watch this and just roll off the last episode of last season into the first episode of this. It probably it probably plays a lot more seamless when you do it
Yeah.
that way. Um,
You brought
so
up the guy, the fireworks guy, and I
Martin.
think his performance was just spectacular.
Okay, so I'm watching Martin. So when after they get him and that actor too was I agree was really good, and there was something about him being in there tied up with. Did you see what he was tied up with? He was tied up with
Seatbelt, right?
seatbelt. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we're sitting there listening to Martin talk, just some of the things he said, it almost was like I felt one of those meta moments, as if the the writer Scott Gimple, for a moment said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this character speak what's going through the minds of the viewer." Okay, and I'll get to that point in a second. But Chris Coy playing Martin, there was, without coming out and being purposefully mean, there was just something creepy and menacing about just how he talked, right?
Right.
So the scene that is he's alone with Tyrese. Tyrese has baby Judith. Carol's gone off to go Rambo her way into Terminus, and I this was really funny. A very interesting thing that Martin said.
I used to have them. I used to watch football on Sundays. I went to church. I know I did. But I can't picture it anymore.
That's
when he says he's friendless, right?
Yeah, and I thought that was funny because it's something where we've all when you read the comics or when you watch the show, you're just kind of like, yeah, do these guys even remember life before?
Right,
and
especially the guys that have gone like psycho.
And you can imagine, yeah, and it was just, I think it was like the first time we've had somebody who's been like, yeah, I think I went to church, and yeah, I used to do this,
right,
I think,
right.
But it's been so long,
right?
Okay, and then there's.
Do you have the rest of that?
Yep.
Because I think that just solidifies it, man.
It's funny how you don't even notice the time go by. Horrible shit just stacks up day after day. You get used to it. I haven't gotten used to it. Of course you haven't. You're the kind of guy who saves babies. It's kind of like saving an anchor when you're stuck without a boat in the middle of the ocean.
I love that line. It's kind of like saving an anchor when you're stuck in a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Which is basically what we've all kind of said about, or you thought about, with baby Judith, is that she's going to betray your position at every chance, and she's going to be the weak spot in your chain.
Well, yeah, I agree. But I think that it's also the show's making a statement about humanity and giving up your humanity and becoming a monster in order to survive in this world of monsters, or trying to walk that tightrope and maintain your friends and your loved ones and people you care about and your sense of humanity and connection to people, and surviving. And I think that this episode, probably more than any, actually answers that. I mean, it is Carol's love for the people that she was with that drives her to go and save them. It is, Tyrese's concern for Judith that keeps him, with Carol and keeps them together and drives his, basically saving Judith. And I think that as a result, they get the reunion that they get at the end, and we get one of the first real, if you could say, positive moments, And I think the show finally is saying you have to be willing to kill, but you can't give up your humanity. If you give up your humanity, you become the monsters, which is exactly what Terminus did. They were good people. They tried to do the right thing, and they got brutalized. And in turn, what they did was instead become the monsters, so that in a way to protect themselves from monsters. And I think the show is saying that's the wrong choice. Since you brought that up, there was a quote after I got done doing my doing my own analysis, I went online, I looked at what other people were saying and stuff. And I love IO9, and they did a real good review of it as well, the show. And they had this interesting quote, I thought, that speaks right to this point. The termites, however, kill to keep from being human. They murder and eat everyone who comes to Terminus, not out of fear or to protect themselves from bad guys, but to be the bad guys, to purposely be inhuman as its own manner of protection. In other words, they're choosing, like they even said, to be the butchers instead of the cattle.
Right.
And we saw it in this guy's talking. He says, I don't think he said it in that clip, but he goes on to say,
wait. Yeah, so I'm going to play that one because that was the meta moment that I was going to say where he's kind of voicing what I think all of us kind of think in a situation like that. So hold on, let me play this clip.
You have no idea about the things I've done. You're a good guy. That's why you're going to die today. That's why the baby's gonna die. Or you can get in that car, get out of here, keep on being lucky. You think you're gonna kill me? Why haven't you killed me? How does having me alive help you? Why the hell are you even talking to me? Take her, take the car, and go. I don't want to do this today.
And it just seemed, when that scene played, I just thought, holy cow, that's the exact same thought I had. You don't just leave this guy. You don't need him. He doesn't add anything to you. So it was, and we all know why. It was because Tyrese was.
But I think you missed. I mean, is there any more to your recording?
No, I'm done.
Okay, I think you missed for me, what was the most important insight in that sequence. He says, that basically he doesn't have any friends anymore. He's friendless. He just has assholes I stay alive with.
Yeah.
And that to me said it all. I mean, he's just, he's not a human anymore. He doesn't have friends. He doesn't care about people. He's this machine who is a cog in this wheel of this group that just survive. And they you know what I mean? And then did you know, I didn't know this, but I watched Talking Dead afterwards. The body that's on the table was Garth's brother.
Alex?
Yeah, I guess that he was the one that Rick was holding, and he's the first one to get shot. He gets shot by the Terminus sniper when all that mess goes down last season in the finale. And so he's dead. And then we learn in the flashbacks in the beginning of this that was actually his brother, and I guess Scary Mary was his mother.
Yeah.
And so to them it's just practicality. They're going to eat him too. You know what I mean? It's just anyway. So
another thing I like too is how there wasn't a need to kill people. I mean, there was, but there wasn't. Like the whole Scary Mary thing. She could have easily, the payback is to just let them turn. And so when Carol shoots her in the leg and knocks her down, she just goes over. I love how she goes to the door. She opens it up and the zombies all come in. They kind of like sniff her and nope, you're one of us. And then they keep moving on to go eat her. And they did the same thing with the, because we saw the one of the guys with the butcher knives turn.
Well, that
was out at the end.
I think that was strategic on Rick's part. He tells them not to kill him because the more zombies they have going on, the more distraction they have to their benefit. Since you brought up the scene and we were talking briefly about the Tyrese scene, the Tyrese scene, I just thought that was awesome. I thought the build up to Tyrese's rage, we often see them, show Teresa's character in constant conflict and everything. The build up to his rage was so well executed and so well done. I mean, this guy so wants to hang on to his sense of self, of his humanity, and for caring and to not be, a monster, in his eyes. But, the reality is if you push Tyrese too far, man, or threaten someone he cares about, it's game over, dude. I mean, Tyrese is the Dr. Bruce Banner of Team Rick, right? I mean, when he hulks out, zombies don't stand a chance, and the bad guys are toast. I mean, when he went out, when he was pushed out that door, and that baby's in that guy's hands, you knew those zombies, man, they were just cannon fodder. It
Yep.
was just, and all that noise you heard out there, they didn't even stand a chance, you know?
Yeah.
I love too how they didn't like get it when the only evidence you see of that is when they pull out and show the outside afterwards, and the zombies got stakes through their head,
Yep.
parts are all over the place. I mean, he just went all on Hulk.
Well, I thought it was funny when he said, "Lay your weapons on the ground," and he pulls out a knife and he pulls out something else, a gun maybe, and lays them on the ground. And I was thinking, I forgot about the hammer.
Yeah, he still got that ball peen, baby. So yeah, that was great. Carol and Daryl's reunion and Rick and Judith's reunion, I thought that was just so powerful, so poignant. They were wonderful. It was a wonderful reward after almost an hour of hell and fire and horror and crazy, and such a great build-up with all of the second half last season, them all being separated and everybody thinking everybody else is dead. And I just thought they did such an excellent job of pulling it off. So yeah, the character development this season, the last couple seasons of these characters in general has been fantastic, I think. And you see it in Daryl tremendously. I mean, here's a guy that he couldn't even put, two words together when it came to his feelings. And, he goes running over to Carol and hugs her. He's practically in tears. And I just thought that was, just very, very poignant and very, very emotional. And of course, Rick and Judith, but the best for me was Rick and Carol. And it was just with the one simple line, that Andrew Lincoln says of, "Did you do this?" And then the hug. And it was just, everything that had gone before was like absolved and resolved, I mean, of him kicking her out and, all the bad decisions she had made in the past and the bad decisions he had made, obviously, as well in the past. So,
see, I'm going to take the opposite point. That's one of my bads on this one is, and it's not a huge bad. It's a minor one. Is I didn't like that. I'm going to back up and I'll say that the Daryl going to her, it would have annoyed me if Daryl had been cool guy off, and just kind of stayed off to the side. It also would have annoyed me. I to Scott Gimple's credit. Maybe he did write dialogue in there, and maybe the actor playing Daryl just said, "I'm going to go without it." But whatever, the decision to go dialogueless was great because you didn't need it. Everything you needed to know about his relationship with Carol was summed up with how he rushed to her side.
Right.
I didn't like I wasn't as enamored of Rick and Carol because Rick should have been more. It shouldn't have been so casual. Carol has nothing. I don't see, and we've had this discussion before on the prior episodes. Is I don't see that Carol has anything to. It's almost like she did this, and this is her absolution for what she's done in the past. But she doesn't have anything to absolve. That was just what she was. She did what she did for what she thought was the safety of the group and whatever. Rick was completely out of line because he acted unilaterally to kick her out. Okay, that's rehashing the past. We all know that. So this, I mean, if anything, I wanted her. She would have been, comfortable with everybody but Rick, and kind of like, "Hey, ass, I'm back," and and a little bit more chagrin on Rick's, Rick's side, like, okay, you did this or whatever. I mean, he still doesn't know. Just because she did this and she bailed them all out, so what? It still doesn't mean that she's a quote unquote a better person than he, when he cast her out before. So, because he doesn't know anything, he doesn't know about what she is and stuff like that. So that little get together just rang false to me. It just didn't. I didn't see that you. Well, maybe it's because I see myself in that position. Of course, it's I've never been in a zombie apocalypse, but I would say that I would be a little bit bitter towards a person who, I mean, I could very well have died. Carol could very well have died in since being cast out. She hasn't, which proves that she's one of the ultimate survivors.
Well, and I felt that Andrew Lincoln's performance showed, even in just the few words, that there was some guilt on his part. I felt that came across, and certainly surprise, because he had done that, and then he or she is, saving him. But the only place I disagree with you on is that I think Carol did go too far. And I think that she realizes that she went too far with what she did at the prison with Karen, I think was her name, right? And with those murders, and without consulting with anybody and everything else, and doing it. And she really kind of. I think there's a question as to whether she went too far with the training of the kids, and because of how that fell out with the two children, the two girls, Lizzie and what was the other girl's name?
What was her name?
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, some fans of the show, you guys are.
Yeah, right. So I think that Carol, when he dropped her off, there was kind of this understanding that, she went too far and he was going too far, and in terms of his reaction. And I think she came to realize that she made mistakes in that and went too far, and that she maybe had let go too much. And I think her situation with Tyrese in that episode, that was so incredibly powerful, The Grove, last season, I think that was part of that realization, and that's why she confessed to him and was ready to take judgment, because she felt she had done wrong, and she needed to be upfront. And by getting the forgiveness, she was able to kind of reconcile that, I think, and realize that, maybe it wasn't so bad, not so bad, but that Rick wasn't so evil or anything to kick her out. I think the other thing is she still cares for all those people, regardless of whatever her feelings are with Rick. She still cares about Daryl and all those people. And, those are her family. Even though she was temporarily, booted to the curb, she still cares about them. So.
Well, I also agree that he's not going to rush up and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done it." And blah blah. I get that, like,
right?
And that's
ridiculous. He was
so
kind of.
So I'm hoping that we need a scene in sometime this season. We need a scene where he sits down with Carol and they clear the air, and he makes up for the. We need to have another. The two of them need to get together.
I think there will be. Kimple was on Talking Dead last night, and he said there are a lot of things like that have to be dealt with yet. There's fallout that hasn't been addressed.
I want to talk about the actor who played Gareth, because talk about a guy who Gareth is supposed to be pitched as like this. Where he's this very charismatic character, and that actor really pulled it off. I mean,
he was good.
You have that scene where they're all sitting at the trough, and there's necks being cut, and then he comes in and he's just like, how many shots did you take?
Yeah.
And it's just like casual, and just the way, again, this is a very you can tell he's got a silver tongue. You can tell he's very charismatic, and the way he was talking with Bob, right, and just very charismatic. But in that charisma is this menace. It's like he's like,
I didn't read it as
nice.
I didn't read it as charisma. I read it more as detachment. He just is completely detached from any emotion or any care. They have their process and their way of doing things, and there's no such, humanity doesn't mean anything. You're either with them or you're meat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But with his people, he's got the presence and the charisma for people to follow him and to be
they're surviving,
to be loyal. Yeah.
There's just people. There's just assholes I survive with, to quote the guy, and the fireworks guy. They just put up with each other because they've made a decision to do this so that they can survive. I don't get the cult leader type feeling from him. It was more just. He was just the asshole in charge of the assholes.
See, I disagree with that. I think he's got David Koresh kind of dripping off of him.
Obviously, the fact that he's not dead in that episode, I think there's going to be some reckoning still between him and Rick. And
so
I got a prediction to make.
Okay, what's your prediction?
Well, he said, I loved the sequence when he's grilling Rick about the bag and the detail at which Rick gives him about what's in the bag.
Right.
Because at first he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he's like, you know what? Fine. You're going to threaten me like this. Fine. Here's what's in the bag. And he gives him the whole list. Then he says, and a red-handled axe, which is what I'm going to kill you with. And I was like, I'll bet in the end, that's what he kills him with.
I normally have such a issue with Andrew Lincoln's acting, but I actually really liked him. He was a very strong. There's the leader. There's the Rick leader that I've been wanting. So it's funny that you bring this up because Hollywood Reporter has an article talking about it, and their interview Gimple and I think Nicotero. No, Gimple and Kirkman. And so apparently at Comic-Con, they showed a Comic-Con trailer showed that Gareth later joins the group. How can these two the question to Robert Kirkman is, how can these two coexist considering Rick vowed to kill him? And we'll put this article up on the Facebook page and the blog as well. And Kirkman's response is, that's going to play out in an interesting way. That is a moment I would certainly key in on to see how that actually plays out in an episode. There's going to be something fairly intriguing that happens here. Maybe we reveal that Gareth is actually Rick's long-lost brother. You never know. Quote, laughs. So apparently the Comic-Con trailer showed that Gareth joins their group later on, which... interesting.
Man, I will be very disappointed if that's what happens. Because I was like, I think it was the right thing to not go back. Rick wanted to go back and take them all out. They don't get to survive, is what he said. Not after what they've done to us and what they did to so many other people.
Right.
And I'm kind of on board with that. I'm like, these guys are going to just set up shop somewhere else and start the same process over, and all sorts of innocent people are going to die. So I was on board with that. But I'll be shocked if that isn't how it ends. I'll be shocked because that was one of the. There's been a number of poignant key things in the comic that have happened. Whether it was with the governor storyline or whatever, and that note was one of the biggest notes in the comic, during that time of the comic, and how that situation gets resolved, and kind of sets a whole new, bar for what our group is capable of, and I'll be surprised if they don't go there.
So try
not to give too many spoilers on a comic there.
Walking away from the episode, what I thought was interesting was they spent so much of last season talking about Terminus. Get to Terminus. We got to get to Terminus, and Terminus was just such a big thing. We got to Terminus, with 15 minutes to go at the end of the season, and then we spend an entire episode at Terminus, and now we're done. Yeah. All last year. Now we're not there anymore. And at first I was like, that is really.
Oh yeah, I think it was great.
That's really good because now you're not belaboring it, and we're not like, okay, one's. It was just in and done. And
the belaboring was all last season. The whole second half of last season was the journey to Terminus.
Right, but it could have been. Look.
Yeah, they could have. Right,
we've all seen Lost, and we could have
under crappier writers and producers. I agree with you.
Yeah, and we talked about what's the town where the governor was. There were episodes that took place there.
Yeah,
Woodbury.
Absolutely.
So we got in, we did it, we got out. The status quo, the team is basically all back together, -1, and we did what we had to do, and the status quo is reestablished. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree. And Gimple again talked to that last night on the Talking Dead, and and basically said, reiterated that they had spent all of, the second half of last season building up Terminus. What is Terminus? Everyone's heading to Terminus. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be the cannibals? And it was time to deliver on that promise. And I think you're absolutely right. It was the right way to go. If they had continued to try and draw that out, it just would have been, I think it would have been the wrong way to approach it.
The other thing I want to talk about is Eugene. So again, is another good point about the show is we've got to get this guy to Washington because he's got the cure. And then Sandra says, "Okay, well, what is the cure?" Well, I can't tell you. It's kind of like which I thought was funny, where he's like, "Well, basically, it says, well, that's above your pay grade."
Yeah,
dude, pay grades don't exist anymore. But she keeps pressing him. and then he just lays down this barrage of obfuscation and just, it was just a bunch of words that just.
Hold on, I gotta go to Google and look obfuscation up.
Okay, it's OB.
Would it be just as easy to say bullshit?
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to keep it, PG here. Come on.
Sorry.
PG. So something happens in the episode. So when he lays down all that noise, basically,
right.
And I was looking at people's faces, and they were all, Abraham's face and their other partner. This is what happens when you don't drink enough coffee during the day. You forget stuff.
Getting old's a factor too.
Okay, so I was watching the faces of the people around when he lays down all this nonsense to see if they were like nodding. And Abraham bought it. It seemed like Abraham bought it. And X23, what's her name?
That's Rosita. That's Rosita. A great name for her.
She seemed to buy it. Sandra didn't quite. Bob seemed to buy it. Sandra didn't quite seem to buy it, but she was kind of like,
Sasha.
All right,
Sasha.
Or Sasha. Why do I keep calling her Sandra? Because I'm an idiot. So Sasha didn't seem to be buying it, but she was like, well, those were a bunch of words, so maybe. But then what at the end, when the status quo is established and they're going, remember, they're at the cabin and they have the reunion with Tyrese and
yeah, I know what you're going to say.
What do
Abraham and Rosita have that conversation? Yeah,
exactly.
What's that about? I think that's just that.
Do you think they know that he's full of crap?
No. I think what that is that they're still, they're all about the mission to get him to Washington. That's kind of. That's how they're surviving, at least for Abraham. He's made this decision that this is what he's going to do, and it's given him a lifeline. So that's why everything this guy says, he basically accepts it. You know what I mean? They have to now try and convince the group to go to Washington with them. And it's clear from what's happened that Rick's in charge.
Right.
And Rick is the leader. And they're going to have to sell Rick. And he doesn't know anything about Washington right now. So, but they're just like, let's not do that now. Yeah, he doesn't know anything about the Washington thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that it was just a big line of crap that came out of him about that, virus fighting a virus thing and
anybody. Oh yeah, and then he just upscales. It's a virus versus fighting a virus, and then it was like think of like a super virus fighting a super virus, and it was just like one more hyperbole on top of the next.
They don't need a lot because they're locked in a freaking train car about to get eaten and there's zombies surrounding and everything else. So that, they accept it and move on. But
they're hanging on any possible thread of hope.
Exactly.
And actually, the hope thing. Somebody wrote an article at Forbes of all magazines, which I always find funny when Forbes magazine writes an article about TV or movies. But anyway, they wrote something they said in their article was basically like, what is it about the Walking Dead formula that seems to work that makes all these other networks drool over the numbers that they put up? And the writer says in the article that it's this hope, it's this hopefulness that exists in there. He drew a comparison to NBC's hit The Blacklist, where you've got James Spader as this this main character who's a quasi bad guy, anti-hero, I guess, but there's never a hopelessness in there. And in the meantime, there are so many shows where it's just like dread and hopelessness and just blah. But there's always The Walking Dead has shown you that we've got a universe that has been turned upside down, but it doesn't matter how dark it is. There's always one little sliver of hope, one little ray of hope that the survivors can key in on and keep moving forward. All right, so we've basically gone through all the good.
Wait a minute. I got a couple other little points. I love that Bob is the one to make the case for keeping them alive.
Yeah.
I thought that was great, because rather than just like, making it Rick or making it Daryl, it was like Bob, and he was making sense, and he was talking good stuff. But then they also just really tied right back into last season's theme when he just says, you can't. Gareth says to him, you can't go back, which was the whole thing of last season was, do you do things that make it so you can come back? Can you come back from the things you do, or can you not?
Right.
And Gareth is just like, no, you can't. And I thought that was cool. I thought it was a nice piece of writing. I thought the one quick scene with Daryl killing the zombie that was coming up behind Rick was awesome.
Yeah.
So freaking awesome, because it wasn't just action. To me, what it did was, it was in one quick flash moment, we got another reaffirmation of their new brotherly bond,
Right.
and that the two of them share, and that they have each other's back. I mean, literally.
Yep.
And that was just, because again, the end of last season, obviously their whole discussion sitting on after that mess, and he's like, you're a brother to me, and boom, this was just like reaffirming that. I thought that was great. This isn't really to do with, well, I'll get back to that. And I think that, I also loved the foreshadowing of, well, now this might be a spoiler for a comic. So if you're worried about being spoiled for the comic, I'll pause here for a second.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but it's way back in like issue 60 or something.
Well,
like,
yeah, but I mean, if you're current on the comic, then it's not a spoiler, or close to current on the comic, or in the last year. But anyway, yeah, the foreshadowing of Glenn's possible demise, I thought they were poking fun at the comic. One, they're trying to take people who read the comic, they saw the preview, oh, geez, here's what's going to happen, and they even did it twice. There's two times the guy lines up to take Glenn out, and then he gets distracted. And he lines up to take him out, and he gets distracted. So,
well, there was speculation that we've mentioned Negan before, who's been a player since around issue 100, which is what, roughly two and a half years ago, I guess.
Right.
So there's
a lot to talk about with Negan, yeah.
Yeah, there was speculation that Negan was shown because he's the guy in the flashbacks to Gareth and company in the freight car. That guy who comes in where what Gareth says everything's going to be okay, and that guy leans in and says no, it's not.
Right.
There was speculation that might have been Negan, except that I guess Kirkman or
Kirkman.
Gimple shot it down and said, no. That turns out to be the tattooed face guy that they let out of the freight car, the other freight car.
That's what they're saying. Nicotero said that, and then also Kirkman was online today going on about it, and that may be, but I still think it was foreshadowing. I think they made him look like it to let you know there are other bad people out there that are even worse than this, Yeah. And and then the other thing is the guy that comes out, the guy that goes into the train car in the flashback, he's got the hair pulled back and the large forehead. It really does look like Negan, and it's in shadow and everything else. But then the guy that's let out of the car, the crazy long-haired guy with the beard and everything else, that's the same guy supposedly. He looks like, and again, spoiler alert for comic readers, he looks like Negan now.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Yeah. So that
maybe that's another just a little
again, more foreshadowing, I think. But yeah, good stuff. Okay, that was it for my good.
All right, what do you got for bad?
I had like little to no problems with this episode, man. I mean, it was just all so good. The only thing maybe that I was having trouble buying was, and I can kind of get it because he was so emotionally distracted, but I think Tyrese is turning his back on that guy with the baby right there, and looking out the windows and being all concerned about what's going on out the windows and not paying attention. I found that a little hard to swallow, but that's, it's Picayune because it set up a fantastic sequence, so he had to be able to get free, but if I had been Tyrese, and even if I didn't, felt the way he didn't want to kill the guy, I still would have gone over and either taped the guy's mouth shut or knocked him out, because I don't, I got enough on my mind. I don't need this guy picking my brain apart. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's the only thing I could say that I have problems with.
My bads are they're really nitpicky too. I already talked about the one where I just wanted. I thought that
Carol and Rick.
Yeah, Carol and Rick thing. And then the other two picky things are. All right, one is just Okay, well, first the first one is that I never thought, even though that's an intense opening scene and the four guys at the trough, I never I never thought one of them was going to happen, was anything was going to happen to them. I never felt like they were. I kind of felt like they're in peril, but then when Gareth comes in and he interrupts when Glenn's about to get it in the back of the head and he gets interrupted, it kind of became almost kind of funny where it was like, how many shots did you take? What do you say, 26?
Yeah.
And he goes, and he lines up to go again. And it was like, wait, what? Hold on. What about you? How many did you take?
Yeah.
And then it was just like, every time you almost had, yeah, I think it's gonna, no, they're gonna get away. And so I never really thought they were peril. And then the only other one, and this is super nitpicky, is the gags over their mouths. Okay. Go take a towel or go take a t-shirt and gag yourself. Like, take it around your mouth and then try to talk, okay? You can't talk, but you can still make a lot of noise.
Right.
And it was just like there were points where I think Daryl's was just kind of like, it was like he just had it in his mouth. It was so loose, he just kind of had it in his mouth like it was a bit from a bridle. It was just one of those things where, why are you gagging them? You're about to slit their throats anyway. So
yeah, well, they don't want to listen to them cry for their lives, Which
but you can still make, it's, but that's, like I said, it's super nitpicky because I get nitpicky over the whole duct taping over your mouth. Because again, apparently I'm really weird because I actually try this stuff out.
Yeah,
take a piece of duct tape.
You're kind of scaring me that you know all this stuff.
Take a piece of duct tape and put it over your mouth, and then see how easy it is to open your mouth with the duct tape on. It's really easy. But anyway, so minor nitpicks about the whole thing.
Yeah. Did you catch that the guy at the end of the trough that looked like Eminem, the blonde-haired guy?
Yeah.
You get that he was the guy that was with the girl and the apples or picking or whatever, and when Rick and Carol find in that subdivision. I don't know about apple picking, but they were looking for fruit or something. Yeah, he was the guy that disappeared. The girl was eaten by the zombies, and the guy was disappeared. Remember?
Oh,
that
nice
was him.
Spot.
That was him. And Rick leads down.
Did you spot that, or did you read that online?
Well, no, I recognize the guy, and then he looks down at Rick, and Rick looks down at him, and there's a recognition between the two of them, and then I was like, that's definitely him.
Okay.
Then I read online and also saw last night again on Talking Dead that they were talking about that it was him.
Spot.
They confirmed that. The funny thing is that they flew him out for that part, and he didn't have any lines. He didn't know anything about it. They said, yeah, we want you to come back and redo this role. He's like, all right. And then he comes in, he's like, okay, come on in here and get down on your knees, and we're going to put this together here. And it was like 1 hour they shot, and then they say, okay, thanks. He's like, that's it. He was like, of course, now I guess he's playing Penguin on the Gotham. He's the Penguin on Gotham. So it's kind of a little bit of tidbit there.
It would have been funny if this was like his only role, and then he starts going to conventions as
But I love
nearly got throat cut guy.
I love that they did that because it just, and again, I attribute this to, so much of this show has improved since Gimple has taken over. And it's clear that again he has an affinity for the book, for the comic book, and for that kind of storytelling that you and I at least love so much. And that is, and that they don't leave stuff open-ended forever,
right?
It may take a while, but they tie it up. They come back to it, and
but his demise, his disappearing from that episode, we could have just said, oh, he got eaten.
Yeah,
but it's cooler that you wrapped it up into this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing too is, and it's very, very smart, from a writing standpoint, they needed to have someone die in this episode that had some relevant connection to us. The rest of those two guys were red shirts, you know what I mean? Right. But because we had that guy, we had a character that was very emotional. That was sad. I found that very sad. Here's this guy. He was a nice kid. Him and that girl were so nice, Yeah. And I just felt terrible that she died, and then now he was missing and everything else. And then we find out this is where he ended up.
Right.
This is what happens to him in the apocalypse. And it's just it was so sad, So I agree with you. I thought someone was going to die, but then it became kind of clear that they weren't. But I kind of predicted that I thought somebody of importance would die, but That didn't happen, but I think they did this in exchange or to try and still get that emotional content in there for a death. So that's it on bad, right? What about ugly? The good, the bad, the ugly.
So my ugly is I have three, and they're all great uglies actually. Well, the blowing up of the tank and taking out all the zombies, that was just awesome.
Listen, that is so going to be in my. I'm going to do a tribute illustration to this episode as I was doing in the second half of last season. I'm going to try and keep doing that as we go forward here. That is like going to be the center of this illustration. I can't wait.
So there's that. I liked my other one is it's good, but it's just horrible, and it just it's one of those like horror things. It's when Martin has his hands on Judith's head, and he's like, go away. And I love how when they do it, the camera shows baby Judith and someone holding baby Judith's head. All you see are hands on the head.
Right.
But when they cut back, you see his hands in the crib or in the cooler actually.
Right.
But you don't see him actually touching anything.
Right.
So there was that kind of disconnect. But I mean, just the thought of somebody doing that was just
those hands. Those hands were the actual hands of the baby's father.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to Nicotero again on Talking Dead last night, and that was to try and help keep the baby calm. And basically the baby just did not want to be inside that thing and was crying all the time. And they just shot right around it. They waited for like 20 minutes or so. And yeah,
Very
but
clever.
Yeah, that was cool. And the other thing that was great about that blowing up tank thing was the way that we saw it. It wasn't just she comes up to the fence, she sees the tank, she blows it up, big explosion, zombies fly. We get this brutal scene that's interrupted by some sort of weird explosion that's massive. You have no idea what that knocks them on the floor. Is it a tank? Is it a bazooka? Who the hell would have weapons like that?
Right.
You know what I mean? That was on our team. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, they like created this huge mystery around this explosion. And then you can't wait to find out what it is. And then you get to see Carol do that. And it was like so much even more rewarding, But
the other ugly is good ugly is I just love the again, it's just kind of horrible, but it was at the end when Tyrese when Tyrese, the end of Martin, when he's punching Martin in the face and he's like, he's like, I will not. And you see, and then it keeps going as you pull back and you see that zombie, a stake, and you're just like, yeah, it's pretty much, the pulverized his head.
Yeah. And then when he gets reunited with Carol, he's like, I could do it.
Yeah.
And she's like, good. She's like, okay, there's hope for you yet. Yeah, that was awesome.
All right, what are your ugly?
My ugly, same thing with you. I agree with all that you said. I thought, we talked a little bit about it, so I won't go on too much, but the delivery on all of the Terminus buildup, to me, that was just unbelievably awesome writing, that rather than drag it out, rather than turn it into another Woodbury, rather than say, hey, we can make a whole season out of this, they said, you know what? The fans have, been teased for 6 episodes about this Terminus place. And, we've got these people in this life-threatening situation now. We need to deliver. And I just was really, I thought that was awesome. The amazing flow of the action. I agree with you said that at the top. I mean, it was nonstop. There was no quiet moment that, felt uncomfortable. I mean, the damn thing just kept moving like 90 miles an hour. The gut-wrenching horror of the opening and the heart-wrenching flashbacks on the Terminites. I mean, I was almost mad at the show for making me feel bad for them. Here are these cannibal people that are doing this to our heroes, and yet then we find out what happened to them, and it's like, oh my God, I feel bad for them, and that was just unbelievable writing. I mean, to make you go on that kind of a roller coaster ride emotionally was fantastic. So it just all exemplifies for me that, Nicotero was spot on with the directing, and Gimple just continues to be not only the best showrunner so far, in my opinion, but also just the best writer on the show as well, because he wrote this episode as well. So that was my ugly.
All right. So how many headshots you giving the show?
I think what's our max? 5 or 10 or what did we do for
5?
5?
1 to 5. Yep.
I think I got to give it a 5. I mean, I think I got to. I mean, I hate to do that because then what if there's something better than this? but it's by far my favorite episode, and I think the best executed. And I got to give it a 5.
I
But you?
yeah, I'm kind of the same. I gotta go with a 5 because it was
I mean, just can't find it.
This is what you do. This is how you start a series, a season off. You
Yeah.
start off with not that slow burn garbage. Just get in, and I mean, you could do that in the pilot because you're building something. But a second, third, fourth, fifth season now, jump into it.
Well,
Probably means that next week we're gonna go. It's
yeah,
gonna
we'll
go
slow down a
pulseless,
little
but-
bit, maybe. I don't know, though. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think the also is that you can't keep the pace like that for a whole series, or for a whole season. You just can't. You know what I mean? And it would be mayhem because you also wouldn't care as much because if you don't have the slower episodes, if you don't have the Grove episodes, you don't care about these people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and I think they're doing a good job of going back and forth. I mean, you had the slow burn last season that started off with the virus,
Yep.
and it was the best execution of a slow burn in my opinion, because I thought that was a great new threat to bring on, and the way it slowly started to eat away at the population and get scarier and scarier, and that was a great way to do that. But they did that last season. Let's not do it this season, and they didn't. Instead, boom, we get off with a bang. So, yeah, I agree. I just thought it was a great way to start the season.
All right.
What about? Wait a minute. We can't stop without. What about that final reveal after the credits?
Oh, yeah, the final reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Now, I wonder if they're going to keep doing that with all the episodes. So, for those of you who know what we're talking about, when they played the credits, and then I think there was an ad for Talking Dead afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think they play the credits, but I think it was they showed the ad for Walking Dead, which usually signifies the end. And then they come back yeah, they did. Maybe they did. Maybe you're right.
So they did the Marvel thing, which is you go see a Marvel movie, sit through all the credits, and then there was that little stinger on the end. So if you didn't, and if you still have it on DVR, go check it out because it was really cool.
Yeah. I think that he is, again, all the episodes that he's ever been in. This is, by the way, the reveal was that the character Morgan has returned. That he looks much saner than he did the last time we saw him. Yeah. He seems focused, attentive, and on point. And the only thing I didn't understand was why he's wearing that cool ass mask. I mean, it looked badass, but I didn't see any point to that. But
I thought about that too.
But I think the point to that was it was to give an even stronger reveal. They could have him turn around. It's more of a mystery. Then they can zoom in, and then he takes the mask off, and boom, which is very Kirkman, like you're saying, in the book. There's always these big, huge final page, big reveals. So that was cool. What do you think? What do you make of the? Well, obviously he sees the sign. That I love too. I love that.
Oh wait, let's hold on a second. For somebody, if you've missed it, basically what it is Morgan has clearly been walking down the tracks. We see from behind this person who looks like some character off of out of Star Wars, wearing a cloak and.
What was that Denzel Washington post-apocalyptic Elijah or Book of Eli. Book of Eli. He looked like him. In my opinion, he was like all geared up like that.
So he stands there. He's standing in front of the sign that used to be to Terminus and Sanctuary, but Rick has written no Sanctuary and then scribbled it all over with mud. And he turns around, faces the camera, and takes off this mask that he's wearing. And it's the reveal that it's Morgan. So Morgan had been following all the signs, the Sanctuary, to Terminus. Now he's there, and he's like, okay, clearly I don't go there. And then he sees the X's. There's X's on trees. And so he turns around, starts following that path of the X's on the trees.
Well, two things. One's a question and one's an observation. The observation is I love how, it's decisions. And again, I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but this is the writing and the show running. But the decisions that are made earlier play out later. I love that. I absolutely love that. Rick throws Carol out of the group because of what she did. Whether you believe it's good, bad, or indifferent, without that happening, she would not have been where she was when she saves, to be able to save. She wouldn't have been in the position to save him.
They wouldn't have been saved.
No, they wouldn't have been saved. So that decision, whether it's bad or not, ended up being good in the long term. His decision to stop and write "No Sanctuary" on that sign seemed insignificant, but then you find out it's incredibly important, because if Morgan hadn't seen that, now granted, Morgan would have got there and probably found it in a mess and left, but he decides right then, and then he turns and finds these other markers. Now, the second part of my thing is the question: what do you think those markers are? Because that's not our team.
No, because if you put, I thought of that.
It's a circle with an X.
It's an X with a circle around it, which to me means don't go this way. So then somebody carved it into and we clearly saw the team. Right, he wrote on it, and they went past the sign going forward on the rails. Right? No way, they were going the other way.
Oh, you think maybe it's theirs? Well, why would they do that though? There's nobody they're trying to signal. There's nobody left behind.
But he also says that if they are alive, because remember they said, well, we need to go back, and they're like, no, we don't need to go back. If they're either going to be they're either dead or on the run. So yeah, if they did leave the single, because I thought it was them leaving a mark. But if you do leave a mark,
then people can follow you.
But even that's not a mark that says follow me. It's a circle with an X through, which means don't go this way.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, but I heard one interesting, or read one interesting theory. It seems a little out there, but it could be cool, because Morgan in the book does get back with the group and kind of plays a big role for quite a while. And again, spoilers for those who are just catching up on the book or just not this far yet. But then him and Michonne have a relationship for a while. But what if this is an interesting idea? I think I read this at IO9. What if Morgan becomes the TV's version of Ezekiel? And that those signs are signs from the kingdom. I don't know. It's just because it looked like an emblem or a tag or a.
It was exactly. It was definitely purposeful.
Exactly. It was some sort of an icon or something, But anyway, just an idea. I don't know, because that would be pretty far away, because the Ezekiel being the kingdom is part of the network in Washington. So yeah. But it was just an interesting idea. Yeah, that was it. What about zombie kill of the week?
I got to go with the massive blast off the. I did like one that Daryl had at the end where he hits this one with a pipe.
Yes.
Hits it and the head splits sideways.
Yes, and the eye pops out against the brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I like the one too with I'm not sure who did it, but he cuts the neck, but he only gets half the neck, and so the head falls over to the side. Yeah. That was sweet.
But it's got to be the tank.
Yeah, it's got to be the tank.
And then who's your character of the week?
Character of the week is a triple play. I do Carol, Tyrese, and Rick. Carol's obviously the go-to, for that, if you got to pick one. But if I could pick others, I would say, I thought Tyrese is, even though he doesn't have a big, as much screen time, his inner conflict, and then the way that gets resolved is just, I thought that was really powerful and really good character development for the week. And I just think Rick did a fantastic job. Andrew Lincoln just knocked it out of the park. I thought he was fantastic. From being totally almost psycho when he's at the trough, the way he looks and his eyes, and he's like shaking, and it was just, I just felt like I was there with him. It was just an amazing job. Down to the subtle line with Carol, which I know you and I disagree on, but I just thought his delivery on that was just in such a contrast to that sequence, that earlier sequence, and he just nailed it all the way across.
Yeah, like I said before, I think this is the leader Rick that I've always wanted to see. So yeah. He definitely stepped up to it. But I got to go with Carol, and for all the reasons we talked about. She was just very smart. There was just again, and all the characters on the show this episode were just very smart. They acted what I thought that a seasoned veteran in this world would do, and
Right.
she didn't. There wasn't any grandstanding, and there was plenty of opportunity to do that when she was with Scary Mary. There was, plenty of opportunity but she was convincing. I totally believe that she could have done what she did. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And man, it didn't hurt that she had one of the most badass rifles the show's ever had.
Yeah,
That thing,
right?
what is that? You're the rifle guy. What was that? That thing was awesome. Big ass gun.
Yeah, it's a saw with the bipod on the front. So
oh my gosh!
yeah.
She was able to do single fire, long range sniper work with it, but then also have it on automatic and just like it was.
But even stuff like that was smart. But even stuff like that, they played it smart. Where she was in a chain link fence, so she put the muzzle. She rested the muzzle on the fence.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's a heavy gun for her to be carrying.
Of course, anybody.
And you could see that when she was holding it kind of off kilter. So they didn't. It wasn't a prop, when they were doing close-ups. She didn't have a prop. She had the real thing. And again, it just adds the believability. It's like, yeah, you got the firepower. Yeah. It's going to it takes some muscle to hold that thing. So again, it was just all very believable and not at all heavy-handed.
And it was really nice of her to take that shower before she greeted them all.
That's right.
Right? I mean, her face was all cleaned up. The tarp.
Well, that was another episode. Well, for all the comments, all the kudos I've given the entire cast, all of a sudden, yeah, good job, guys. Way to be aware of your surroundings. When all of a sudden she comes out of nowhere, behind them, she like stealthed up on them. Come on, but whatever. Let it go.
Yeah.
But all right.
And I loved. We used to do Kill of the Week. I don't know if as opposed to just zombie, but I thought her fight with Scary Mary was awesome too. I mentioned it briefly in the beginning, the way that she just realized the situation and just turned around and started firing. But then the fight was good too, and the way that she then took her and put her in the leg and then let the zombies do the rest. That was pretty wild, pretty brutal. So. But that was, man. I mean, obviously they can't all be like that.
But that's what you wait months for.
Yeah, exactly.
A premiere like
that. It delivered, man. It delivered. The finales should be like that, and the premiere should be like that. Now we start to develop, some story and build for the next one. And it looks like we're going to get Abraham. Not Abraham. Abraham? No, not Abraham. I'm sorry. That's the minister, who's the priest.
Yes.
Gabriel, Father Gabriel.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna get him. It looks like, and obviously, I think they'll still address. They're yet to finish addressing what happens with Gareth and the hunters, and then my guess is next week we'll get some answers on Beth.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get some answers on Beth and where she is and what's going on with that. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since now we've got Carol and Daryl and Carol and Daryl together. So how's that going to?
Yeah, exactly.
For the Beth Daryl haters.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
there are no laws like there used. I mean that everything's free and wild now, man. They could just pair up and be a threesome.
That's true.
It's a monogamy. I guess there's no time for monogamy in an apocalypse. No. It'll be interesting because, I've always maintained that Daryl's affection for Carol is more of motherly. I think he looks to her as kind of, the mother that he never had. And, but I think Carol's affinity for him is more than that.
Yeah.
I think she definitely has, love for him. And I think Daryl has feelings like that for Beth. And so it'll be interesting. I think it will set up some interesting drama. So yeah, looking forward to it. Great start to the season. Can't wait to see more, and really enjoy talking about it here and sharing it with the Biters fans. Awesome.
We one of the things that I didn't mention at the top of this podcast is that we started a blog that accompanies the Facebook site. Hopefully, it won't be poorly maintained. So we'll put up articles and stuff that we find around the net, and
also
so
Facebook. Facebook.
We'll be on Facebook as well, and like always, we'd love to hear your comments, what you think we did right, what we did wrong, how much Kirk's opinions are off the mark, and
post them up, and we'll read them. We'll read them on next week's show.
Yep,
I'll
give you a shout out.
I mean, I got to believe everybody has got some opinions about this week's show. This was powerful.
And if you like The Flash, go check out Fast Talkers. And Flash second episode of the season is on tomorrow night. So the first podcast is up from last week. So give it a listen, and check out all the other ones available at SouthgateMediaGroup.com.
Definitely want to check out The Flash. I think the family would like that too. I want to watch that. So it's tough though. It's on Tuesdays, I believe. And that's also Shield is on, and my daughter's got us hooked on Selfie. Have you watched Selfie at all?
No, not yet.
It's actually, we're big fans of Doctor Who, and the lead female lead on that used to be the main companion for the Doctor for a long time, and Karen Gillian, the actress Karen Gillian, and she's very funny, and it's a funny show. We're digging it.
She was also in Guardians of the Galaxy.
She was. She played the blue
Thanos'
assassin.
daughter.
Yeah, Thanos' other daughter. Yeah. And I hope she'll have a bigger role in the sequel to that, because she survived that.
Oh, her costume was awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Makeup. That was fantastic.
We had somebody come to the Z-Girl booth. She and her partner,
Kree guy. Yeah,
was Ronan the Accuser.
Ronan. Yeah. They were awesome. There was definitely check out zgirl.org, because we'll be posting up pictures. I usually do a video review of our show at NYCC, and you get to see all the cool stuff that we got to see if you didn't get to go to the show. And then keep your eyes peeled too. I'll be tweeting out probably the end of the week a new illustration based on this week's episode, No Sanctuary. Right now I'm thinking it's going to be Team Badasses, but that's where I'm kind of leaning. They all have a team designation, but at least they did. I don't know if I'll continue that, but that's the plan.
All right. We'll keep it PG.
All right, everybody. Take it easy. We'll see you next time, and thanks for hanging in there with us, and hope to hear from you guys on Facebook and stuff.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.